We will transition over then to the project overview. So the reason we are transitioning to the project overview section, I want to reiterate, just because you have provided information regarding your standard allowance, you now need to create a project with that information. You have elected to use standard allowance for the funding. However, we need to see that as a project listed. So once you have completed your recipient specific information, you will then go to the project overview section where you will provide additional information. Also want to point out in this project overview section, anytime that there is an update or a change that has made an impact in the reporting, we provide information here as well as in our user guides. And we break it up into information regarding previous reporting periods, any new updates, and anything highlighted in bold is typically something we're wanting you to make sure you review. And as I just stated, this is an area that we have bold highlighted, and this is after inputting data into the recipient specific section for revenue replacement. You must also create or update an associated project in the project overview section in the 6 revenue replacement expenditure category to report the amount of revenue loss of funds budgeted, obligated, and expended, including a project description that specifies the eligible use for those funds. So this would be an indicator that just because we have elected standard allowance, that we also need to create a project for this. So you'll be prompted with this first question. It's, does your jurisdiction have projects to report at the end of the reporting period? You will either need to say, yes, you have a project to report, or no, you do not have a project to report. If you do not have a project, you will need to put a narrative to why you have not established a project at this point in the reporting period. For the purposes of this demo, we are going to say that, yes, we do have a project report out on, and we will go down to this next section to provide input about that project. Also, we have a reminder question in this section. It states, up to and including this reporting period, have revenue replacement funds been allocated to government services and reflected in the projects below? We are going to create that project right now, so we are going to select yes. If you select no, you're stating that you have not obligated or expended any of the funds that are associated with the standard allowance. If you have obligated and expended funds, you will select yes and select add a new project. In this section, you will make a selection from the expenditure category group. For revenue replacement, they are all in category 6. And you have category 6.1, provision of government services, or 6.2, non-federal match for other federal programs. We're going to select 6.1. Again, you'll see you'll be prompted with some additional information after making that selection. Please note that the obligation expenditures reported under expenditure group 6.1 revenue replacement do not have subrecipients, subawards, or expenditures separately reported after entering the 6.1 project as required. So that is telling us that once we enter the information on this screen, we do not need to provide any other supporting documentation in the subrecipient, subaward, or expenditure areas. We only need to put the information in this project overview section. So we are going to call this revenue replacement test. And then we are going to input a recipient project ID. This is something that is generated by you as a recipient. This is not something that the Treasury provides. This is something that you will need to include. And also you will see that there is an information button. And so you will see unique ID has been assigned by the recipient. So it's telling you that you, the recipient, will be providing this information and it must be a unique ID. So we're going to call this one that number. And in this section, we would provide an adopted budget. Now, the majority of NEUs do not need to provide an adopted budget, but you are eligible to do so if you would like to. However, for this demo, it is a requirement for me, but again, this is only a requirement because of the demo status. As an NEU, this is not a requirement, but it is good information to provide. Now, your total cumulative obligations and your total cumulative expenditures, this is for the entirety of the project. So we want to know the entire amount that has taken place for this entire project, both current period, prior periods. So for this, we are going to say that in this period, we fully obligated and we fully expended the entire project. In this next section, the current period obligations and the current period expenditures, this is what you're telling me has been done since the last year. Did this happen within the last year? For the purpose of this demonstration, we are saying that yes, this took place within the last year. So now we can see that we have a total obligation and expenditure for the project of $10 million. And we also did that total obligation expenditure within this current reporting year. The next section that we would need to update is your project start and end date. This is just useful information. If you have not completed this project, it is not fully completed, you will not need to provide an end date. But if it has started, we are going to say that the project started December 1st in 2023, and we are fully showing that we've obligated and expended. So the project ended December 31st. 2023. Also, we need to provide another description, basically, of similar information that you also provided in the standard allowance screen. And you will see the pop-up that says EC6 project description should include details on the specific government services traditionally provided by government being funded by the project. Please provide additional details on how the funds will be used if possible. Just trying to make sure as a reminder that all information is entered and as detailed as possible. So now that we have entered all of these required fields, you will select Add a Project. And while this program is thinking, it is doing a validation. It is saving the project and it was a green check mark. And you can see now below the project has been added to the project listing, as well as you will get a summary of the information at the top. I want to point out some information here. The adopted budget, the total obligations, and the total expenditures is a listing of all compiled projects below. So if we had 3 projects, all 3 totals will be up here at the top of this section. Also, another feature that we've added is this remaining funds to be obligated. In this section, we are looking at an established adopted budget. If you have provided, again, it is not a requirement. If you have provided a budget here, it will be a calculation of how much of this adopted budget did you establish that has not been obligated yet. And to show that, I'm going back into this existing project, and I'm just going to make some changes. Change this to 7. And I am saying now that we had a budget of $10 million. However, we've only obligated and expended 7 million. We are going to save that. And now you will see that there is a remaining balance available here. This is just a useful tool for you to be aware that you have some funding that is still available to be obligated prior to the end of the program.